We wake up and reach for our phones. They're with us all day, and most of us probably fall asleep scrolling as well. Day in and day out, technology is woven into our lives in ways we barely notice. But here's the thing: more often than not, tech is not built for the people it's meant to serve. Apps and platforms are designed for growth, clicks, and engagement, not necessarily for well being, meaningful connection, or real impact. To explore some of the promises and pitfalls of technology, we're joined by Priya Goswami. Priya is a national award winning filmmaker and technologist, and the co founder of the Mumkin App, an ethical tech initiative focused on feminist technologies. Drawing on over a decade of advocacy with survivors of gender based violence, Priya has spent her career thinking about how tech can actually serve people, not just reach millions. Priya, thank you so much for joining us here today for this recording of On the Contrary. I just want to start with saying, at Mumkin, since you are working at the intersection of tech and mental health, from your vantage point, what do you think are some of the most promising ways that technology has improved well-being? And then what are the ways in which you think it's completely falling short?
Technology has made it super accessible for anyone to be accessing what they couldn't earlier, right? So everything is a finger click away. I'm going to take you back to some little bit of indulge you in a little bit of nostalgia. Imagine the web of 90s. Remember what that was. And I'll start with an anecdote here. When my father gave me a PC, he brought it to our house and he said, you can learn as many languages as you want with the PC. And I was like a baby. So I said, oh, wow, does that mean I can learn Spanish and German and all of that? And he said, no, I mean like C++ and Java and that kind of language. So that is my early memory, core memory, I would say, of technology and connectivity, bringing the world on a common platform, common language, even if someone is speaking Spanish or Italian or Hindi or Bengali or whatever. Actually, I believe the name of the scholar is Joanna Varon, and she's one of the leading feminist researchers on technology. And she actually coined this term that the web of the 90s sounded like tools of revolution. For precisely this reason, that it could be anything to anyone. For that teenager who wanted to learn a lot of languages, for me, it became my gaming console. It became my way to understand the world. It became my way to consume knowledge. However, how we deploy technology and who gets to deploy technology are the big questions I foreground as a tech creator now, because more often than not, it is still perpetuating neo-colonial patterns of the white man ruling. The technology has been percolated down to us through white men from Stanford, Harvard, who are dictating how our worldview should shape. So how can we make this an egalitarian platform and bring back the promise of 90s, that it can be anything for anyone?
Thank you for explaining that, Priya. I will move us on to the next question, which is, tech is often looked at as, scale, and tech can reach everybody, and you can reach millions of people through it. Whereas on the other hand, we have well-being and we have people who talk about mental health talking about how it's a very individualized thing and we need to go for depth and we don't need to go it's not about reaching millions, it's about reaching one person and doing it effectively. So how do you reconcile both of these realities in the work that you do?
You don't. You miserably fail, and that is okay. Now, I'm going to talk about community first in this question so that I foreground what a community centered tech should be in this. What is a community? In a community, think of a brunch date with your friends. It doesn't matter who's what, who has achieved what genders we are from. If you're having a brunch date and we've got 10 of us together, we will commiserate openly, we will laugh openly, we'll cry openly, we'll cheer each other openly, we will also perhaps tell each other, share, confide about each other's wins and failures, doesn't matter, right? So that is a community. Community is where you can be yourself. And I think Technology has the potential to unite any and everyone, but the kind of technology we are governed by, and I don't use the word govern lightly because we are currently being governed by tech created by Western sensibilities, Western capital centers at play. The kind of tech that is governing us at the moment does not allow the room for us to fail and be and not be addicted to something, or not tune into it if we don't want to, or for that matter, even not be plugged into something. The goal that they are operating by is you plug in. And community is where you unplug. So there is no universe in which these are reconcilable concepts. They are not. And that is okay. And as a feminist tech creator, that was my first lesson that I needed to learn. If people are not taken to my app, if people are not comfortable using it, if people are getting angry at it, if the emotion is more anger than catharsis, that is okay. Because it is a survivor's journey, and it is not going to be envisaged by me or you or anybody in the design room who sat and designed that experience for the survivor. That survivor has been through beats of their own life, and what their journey would look like, a machine can't predict. And that is okay. Which is why, for me, the first and foremost question is, technology can unite and construct and offer so much, but who's building it and with what intention? That is the question that needs to be foregrounded in all conversations. If the technology is built to scale, every feminist pilot will fail. And that
Right.
is okay.
Could you give us an example of both, like technology, that is built for people to tune in, that is not built keeping people kind of at the heart of it, and then an example of something that you think changes that? You mentioned your app, and I want to know how that's doing it differently, but also what does that mean as somebody who is trying to also get people to download the app, right? Like how do you do both? Keep people at the heart of it, keep survivors at the heart of it, keep your feminist principles at the heart of it, but also make it an app that reaches more people, that gets out there.
So I tell you what we did with Mumkin Pilot. Mumkin Pilot was live between 2020 and 2023, and it was pre-chat GPT era. So people were still not very used to apps talking to them and saying, what do you want to talk about today? So it was still a novel concept. And I think if I were to say, what would be a good example of it? A good example of it would be a tech which is designed with the idea that one size does not fit all. It's designed with an idea that if I'm talking to, say, survivors of gender based violence, and if I'm talking to survivors of gender based violence from the South Asian perspective, I may alienate people from Australia, or I may alienate people from, I don't know, somewhere else in the world. But that would be okay. My app will not have monthly recurring revenue, which will go into millions of dollars. And my users will not be like, today I have 50 million users, tomorrow I have 100 million users, and my journey and goals will not be that. But if my journey and goal is that 5 survivors enjoyed having that conversation, they felt very frustrated, and then they reached out to a therapist in real time, an actual human being, and got resolution to their trauma, that number 5 is more significant than 50 million. And if, as a feminist tech creator, I'm genuinely okay with that number 5 as a growth metric, that is where that trade-off can happen. That, to me, to be able to tell you that I reached out to 5 survivors and they sought help, and it was a very important process for them, my job is done. And it's not just Mumkin in the equation. There are so many good examples of feminist tech. Same thing for another app that I learned about on cyberbullying from Indonesia, which in fact transcended into 1 million plus users, because there were so many, unfortunately, women who were cyberbullied. So there are enough and more examples of good tech led by feminist or ethical technologists who ground their community at the forefront. And what the needs of their community are has to be uniquely tailored by the creator. It may not look like the overarching goal of multiplying users, but it would be something effective.
Let's talk about donors and investors, right? And the metrics that they want to see, time spent, number of users. What can we offer to them as alternatives, or teach them, perhaps, if not offer to them as alternatives, to say these are the metrics that we should be looking at? This is, if we're talking about tech that actually centers people, that centers community, that is feminist, that is intersectional, here are the things we should be thinking about. What would that look like?
From the perspective of donors and funders, the whole model needs a thorough revaluation. I say tear the paper, rubbish it, and then start afresh, because I mean, the billions of dollars, they have to be put to good use somewhere. Not yeah, but from the perspective of, okay, but let's center your question back from the perspective of what can, I think the community driven technologists, whether they are feminists or they have some other goal in mind, they need to have that conversation with the donor, and they need to very clearly specify that time spent on the app is not the end goal. Time, monthly recurring users, multiplying that is not the end goal. Maybe a good business model could be a freemium membership, where if the user finds some kind of benefit in the app, they subscribe to a paid model. And there has been good examples of paid membership in other industries as well, which traditionally were thought not to be too viable. I'm going to put a plug in here, and I don't know them in person, so if they benefit, great. News Laundry. News Laundry came at a time when nobody thought that anybody would be subscribing for news, right? And then the paid audience grew, who were very, very interested in a certain kind of news.
And then when you mentioned, having 5 survivors actually engage with the app is better than having 50 million, who are probably not engaging or not benefiting from it. What would that look like in terms of metrics for you? How do you track something like that? If you could just give us some examples.
Yeah. So, for example, Mumkin was built with the community, for the community, with survivors in mind, from survivor-centric conversations in mind. So when I talk about the Mumkin users, a term I totally detest, they were my community fellows. And we've had people who've given us really, really angry feedback. What the hell is this? Who's so polite with their mothers? And for us, that's a win, not because we are enjoying that they are getting agitated, but because if that is what it looks like for you, the catharsis where you're able to go through a conversation and say, like, I had this conversation, it made me angry, I'm going to seek help. Win. And especially in intersection of mental health and technology, the responsibility is huge, because what kind of survivors reach out? Are they survivors of trauma? What kind of trauma? Can there be psychosomatic solutions? If therapy is the way forward, what kind of therapy? Cognitive therapy, dance movement therapy. So again, if the founder is someone who does not understand that one size does not fit all, then how will the technology propose the ideal that no, you don't want CBT-led therapy, which is what a lot of mental health apps offer nowadays. You need dance movement therapy, which cannot happen on the app. You need to reach out to a therapist who offers movement therapy, which is somewhere exterior.
Sorry, and just a follow-up. And in that case, would people from the community themselves be ideally the creators of that? And what if, the knowledge for how to build tech is still trickling down to us, and what it looks like. So what does it mean to have that kind of seat at the table, to center the people you're building it with or for? Yeah.
Absolutely. That's such a systemic problem that you highlight, because it's not a problem of, oh, let's do this, but who's doing this? Are you hiring someone from Silicon Valley to do this? Or are you actually getting someone with the indigenous knowledge and also able to code Python? So that's the range we are talking about. So then this is a systemic problem, that who gets to learn the tools that form the very foundation of tech. And there are two ways to do this, I believe. That there could be people like me who are an intersection of community activists and technologists, or we could empower the communities themselves with the knowledge of how to build tech, which empowers them. And I'm going to give you an example here. The example being, the Brazilian favelas. Favelas, for anyone who's not familiar, is what could be an equivalent to the Indian Dharavi. So it's like large urban settlements and slum. And so what a lot of the technologists and people did there was that basically when COVID had hit, they were able to build tools of sharing knowledge on the spread of infection within the favelas, governed by people from the favelas themselves. And I'm happy to share literature on that. And so what that kind of model does is that it gives the ownership of the data on the people from the community themselves, as opposed to, say, in any other open source model where you may not be the data collector, you may not have access to where the data is stored. And if tomorrow there's a private public partnership, your data goes into some tank which shall not be named, and it has access to your everything, from your social security to the infections that run in your family. So data sovereignty at the center, and empowering communities, not just through external actors, say like me, but also really empowering communities to learn the tools of how to build tech. Are we doing that? Are we doing that enough?
I guess, Priya, I'm going to come to my last question, which I think you've alluded to a lot in your other answers as well. But looking ahead, if you had a blank slate to build the next generation of well-being or mental health technology, what are the principles that you would center? And can you tell us about them?
I would ensure the team has a socio-technical lens. So I would not just invest in the most brightest coders from the shiniest institutes. I would be more interested in where do they come from, what are their values, and as a founder, that is how I screen if I have to collaborate with someone or anyone or any company or organization. What are their values? So first and foremost, centering a value-driven approach, not a efficiency-driven approach. I'm not interested in how quickly you can show me the results in fraction of the 9 second. I'm more interested in if you are able to hold that conversation with, say, a person who is in an aggravated scenario. Would you be able to cue in language tools which are sensitive to XYZ parameters? I don't care even if the screen goes blank and says processing for 30 seconds. I don't need the fastest result in the room. So centering the value-driven approach from top to bottom, from bottom to top, both ways. And making sure everyone in the room is coming from a shared value. That shared value can be feminism. That shared value can be community first approach. The shared value can be anything, but having that very crystal clear vision of what that value is and who are our people, who we are serving. We are not there to extract something from them. We're there to serve them. Can we bring that approach back?